NeonicVoid Productions presents.
Hi.
Hello
Well, welcome.
to
What are we doing? Oh yeah,
I don't know what we're
welcome to the
doing.
Book Watcher. Welcome to the Book Watchers, where we read books and watch movies, and then
Yeah,
trash talk the movie.
that thing right there. Yeah,
Anyway,
that.
I'm joined today with the
Well, who are
ginger.
you?
Well, I don't know. Who are you?
Who are you?
Well, I'm Jacob. But who
Oh,
the fuck you?
I'm your worst fucking nightmare. Hi, it's your boy, David. What's good? What's
Just
poppin'? Yeah, you know.
my
You vibing.
lower back and my knees.
Oh, well, I feel that. I feel that. I feel that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Arthritis
Yeah.
is a bitch. Yeah.
We
What are we
we
talking
come.
about today?
Yeah, we come to you live, pre-recorded in a month in advance, to bringing you Michael Crichton's Jurassic Park.
Oh my god, dinosaurs.
Yeah, today we're gonna be talking about the heckin' big lizards and the story written by written by a very acclaimed Michael Crichton. Uh, so yeah, I had to do a little bit of let me see here. I had to do a little bit of research because
Hmm.
like I wanted to double check, like, is this the novelization of the movie? Were these books the novelization of the movies,
No.
or were they like just were the movies based off the books? And I'm happy to report the movies were based off the books.
Yes.
So Jurassic Park and its subsequent sequel, The Lost World, is really a cautionary tale about genetic engineering, because in the 1990s, genetics and other shit like that, the study of DNA, was really beginning to take off. Like, it started in genetics has been the study of genetics has been around for like a long time. I don't know how long. I'm not a scientist, so don't ask me. But it was in like the late 20th century when the study of genetics became more mainstream, more popular, and just more and more scientists were focusing on it. And just like with the Manhattan Project and other things like nuclear power, there uh, there came those who came to fear these kinds of study.
Yeah.
So Jurassic Park was one of those books that was written as a caution, because if, let's say, we were able to find perfectly preserved DNA of a dinosaur, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think a scientist is going to pass up the opportunity to, like, not,
I
to
mean, they're already kind of doing that with like woolly mammoths and shit.
oh yeah, they're trying to bring back the woolly mammoth,
Yeah,
and
trying to bring that from extinction.
yeah, and they're trying to bring back other animals too. Like, there are certain
Hmm.
animals that, yeah, definitely, but like dinosaurs, fuck no. But they really shouldn't. But that's pretty much what this book was written to be.
Yeah.
So as many of you already know, if you've seen the movies, you pretty much already know the synopsis. The book and the movie don't really have much differences. I will say there are a few things that were in the book that weren't in the movies, probably because they wanted to keep the movies PG-13.
Yeah.
And there are a few things that the movies had that the books didn't. So it was one
Mhm.
of those. It's one of those cases where while the movie was very faithful to the book, the movie ended up adding a lot more to it. Um, so to start, the story takes place in 1989. Uh, and the book has a good lead up to the big reveal of Jurassic Park itself. Um, See, it takes place on the park itself was built on an island off the coast of the South American nation of Costa Rica, and the island itself, the park is located on the island of Isla Nublar.
Mhm.
Now, uh, the start of the book starts pretty much starts off with uh, like in a small village on the coast of Costa Rica. There's a doctor. There's a small practice like an urgent care area, urgent care, and some construction workers were brought into the urgent to this doc into the urgent care because they were injured. They were injured during a construction project on the nearby island. Thing is that when the doctor was looking at the construction workers' wounds, they noticed that these wounds were not caused by like a collapsed uh, wall or wasn't caused by construction as they claimed. They noticed that the tears in the flesh were very similar to a bite, though even though they weren't exactly sure what caused the bite, but uh, but the foreman who brought the construction worker in pretty much brushed any questions off and tried their hardest to sweep everything under the rug. Uh, it's later confirmed that this construction worker was attacked and subsequently killed by by one of the dinosaurs, particularly an escaped velociraptor. And and not only and this incident isn't the only case of a dinosaur attack. uh, as it turns out, some of the dinosaurs that were bred on the island managed to escape to the neighboring nation to the mainland, and that's and the ones that were able to escape were the small animals called the Procompsognathus. Now, if you're a paleontologist, you probably know what that is. For those of you who don't know, it's a compy. So compies are small. In the book and movies, they're described as small green dinosaurs. They stand on um, they're bipedal. They have a small. They have like about. They're about 3 feet in length, and their skin is green. Um, these little guys, these compies are scavengers, and right off the bat, there is a scene in the book that was left out of the movies for good reason, because the compies because they had been escaping from the island by sneaking onto cargo boats leaving to going to and from the island. uh, the compies got to the mainland, and they thing about the compies is that they are what you would call nest eaters. So if a dinosaur nest is unattended, the compies would come in and eat the eggs. They would sneak in and eat the eggs, and or eat any babies that are left unattended. Well, that's exactly what happened. In one of the villages, one of the coastline villages of Costa Rica, the compies actually attacked. Like they snuck into a house and ate a baby right out of its crib.
Oof.
Yeah, that's some fucked up shit right there. I
Big
was like,
rip.
yeah, I was like, and ooh, and here, you know what's fucked up is that uh, when the babies, when the baby was discovered dead, the nanny, it was a nanny that discovered the baby, and she saw the compies eating the baby, but she didn't want the family to find out. Like, she figured that the family wasn't going to believe her when she said these green lizards attacked the baby. So
Mhm.
she played it off as like some sort of disease that killed the baby. So she
What
like
the fuck?
basically, yeah, no, she covered it up, and I was like, the fuck. In the it was she was it didn't seem like she was concerned about the baby's death at all. Really, she was just trying to cover her own ass. But either way, uh, these escaped dinosaurs do come to start to draw attention to them. There are paleontologists working in Costa Rica. There's a paleontologist that was working in Costa Rica, and he notices that he finds the carcass of one of the compies. It had been eaten by the local wildlife, and he sends it to the U.S. For a second opinion to get it identified. Um, let's see here. Just going through my notes real quick. So yeah, so the paleontologist he not only sends it to the U.S. for test sends the compy's carcass to the U.S. for testing, but he also calls in his former colleague paleontologist Alan Grant, who was the main character of this book, and his paleobotanist graduate student Ellie Sattler. Now, these two, he asked these two to confirm the identity of the compies, and to confirm that these are compies. But before they can do anything of the sort, they are approached by eccentric billionaire John Hanman. He is the founder and chief executive officer of the International Genetic Technologies, or InGen. So John Hammond, he invites them for a weekend visit to what he calls a biological preserve that he established on Isla Nublar. Uh, so he takes them all the way down to Costa Rica and to the island, and it is there that he reveals Jurassic Park. And by taking them through a quick he takes them through a quick tour of the facility. Now, in the book, it doesn't have. For those of you who've seen the movie, we all know the iconic scene where Hammond takes him for a drive through the park before he introduces them to the park's facilities, and that's where we see the massive Brontosaurus and all the other herds of dinosaurs on the island. Yeah, we all know that scene with the iconic na 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 music. They,
Yeah.
that scene was actually something added into the movie. The book itself doesn't have that kind of scene. Really, Hammond takes them to the park, shows and tells them that he found a way to clone dinosaurs, thanks to a thing called amber. So Hammond discovered that some fossilized tree sap called amber will sometimes contain insects and other uh, microorganisms that may have fed on dinosaurs back in the day, and as a result, the amber perfectly preserved that DNA, allowing them to extract it and clone the dinosaurs. When he first reveals that dinosaur DNA had been extracted and they successfully uh, cloned these dinosaurs, there was a lot of skepticism until Hammond showed them the process. He also showed them took them on a tour of the park itself. He does. There's a lot, and the book has a lot to do with genetics. So there's a lot of talk about the gene sequencing. Back in the '90s, there was a lot of advanced tech that John Hammond managed to acquire in order to sequence the DNA of the dinosaurs, and in many cases, because of how old and how degraded a lot of the DNA he found was, they'd oftentimes had to fill in the gaps of the genetic code using compatible reptilian, avian, or amphibian DNA. So they find a T-Rex's DNA, but it's missing a few proteins. So they're like, all right, well, a chicken has a similar protein, so we'll just fill in the blank right here and there. And boom, you got a dinosaur. So the reason why Hammond invited Alan and Ellie and also uh, mathematician Ian Malcolm, who is a total prick, by the way, he invited them to park as a way to prove to his investors that the park is safe and ready to open. Because Hammond got a lot of investors uh, from overseas, like from Japan and other nations. And thing is that Hammond keeps running into different problems. Like, for example, the Velociraptors proved to be too violent and too vicious to be allowed to be used for any kind of park activities. They've proven to be very intelligent and particularly vicious, so much to the point that they've attacked uh, several park associates. One of them resulting in a death. And Hammond is desperate to not only get the park up and running, but to prove his investors that it's safe. So he puts Alan, Sarah, and Ian through through the whole park's tours just to show them everything, show them all the dinosaurs, show them park systems. Like, for example, the park is basically the way the park is set up is basically safari style. So the animals, so they are in it's almost like an amusement ride. So
Yeah.
they're put into these automated jeeps that will drive them through different sections of the island where the dinosaurs are. And there's like, a pre-recorded tour guide, like, oh, this dinosaur is here, these are those dinosaurs. And really, it's very interesting. But to be honest, like, the books, these two books, I have to say, this is one of the few cases where I prefer the movies over the book. I have to say that I prefer
Oh.
the movie. Yeah, because really, as I'm looking through my notes, as I'm just thinking about everything I've read so far about the books, I'm just thinking, man, the movies did a better job. Not just
Mm-hmm.
because of the visual effects, but because they made the story a lot more interesting. And it was all the more, there was a lot more at stake when it came to these movies, to the story. The
Yeah.
books, while Jurassic Park, the movie was very faithful to the plot of the book, there were just several key differences that I'd rather just go over. Like, for example, so yeah, like the movie. So yeah, in the book there is a hurricane that sweeps through the island, and when this happens, it causes a lot of issues. But the biggest issue comes from, what was his name? I forgot his name. He was the big dude. Yeah, so
Don't remember his name.
his name is Dennis Nedry.
Dennis.
So Dennis Nedry is Jurassic Park's controlling software engineer, and he was approached by a rival company of InGens called Biosyn. He was approached by geneticist Lewis Dodgson to with an offer. He was approached by a Dodgson with an offer to steal InGen's research and genetic material on the dinosaurs, so that way Biosyn can create their own dinosaurs and be able to compete with InGen. So he was basically recruited to attempt corporate espionage for a rival company, and he agrees to it because Biosyn offers to pay him a fat load, just a lot of money. They want to pay him a lot of money. So while Hammond is busy cavorting around the island, showing off the park systems and the dinosaurs like the Tyrannosaurus, the hold on, I forgot to take a list of all the dinosaurs. Let's see. So there's the Apatosaurs, which are actually more, which we know them as Brontosauruses, the pterodactyls, the Dilophosaurs, the duck. Oh yeah, the duck-billed Dilophosaurs, the T-Rexes, Stegosaurus, but like all different kind of. While all these animals are being presented to the park's first guests, Nedry uses a backdoor that he wrote into the park's computer system, and he shuts down its security systems to steal frozen embryos from the park's freezer. However, when he does this, this also shuts down pretty much everything: the security systems, the the little jeeps that drive the tourists around the island, uh, and it causes a lot of issues. And because of this, it also shuts down the safety systems for like the dinosaurs' electrified enclosures. So a lot of the dinosaurs are put into like different enclosures with electrified fences, and when Nedry interferes with the system to steal the embryos, they shut down, and uh, some of the more dangerous dinosaurs escape, particularly the velociraptors and the T-Rexes. And there is this. The book does include the iconic scene of the Tyrannosaurus escaping from its enclosure and uh, attacks the jeeps. And we do see the first death in the first real the first character's death in the book. This dude is, I believe his name, yep, Donald Gennaro. So Donald Gennaro was a lawyer representing the investors for Jurassic Park, and poor dude gets eaten by the Tyrannosaur. Uh, Meanwhile, while all this shit is happening, Tyrannosaurus is attacking the main characters, including John Hammond's, which also include John Hammond's grandson and granddaughter. Uh, Nedry attempts to escape the island, but he gets turned around during when the tropical storm comes in, and he gets killed by the Dilophosaurus. Which, for those of you who don't know, a Dilophosaurus is this. Um, uh, Fuck, how do you describe the Dilophosaur? It's the one that spits that venom in your eyes.
It's like,
It has these frills that like it's like a fan that
it makes itself look. It's like those Roadrunner lizards.
yeah,
that when you come up to it, it will fan out these what they
like
call
a
it,
frill. It's
like a frill. It'll fan out and shake them and try to be bigger than it actually is to kind of ward off predators.
Yep, and they spit venom at your eyes. And so anyway, Nedry gets eaten by one of those, and basically, and because he used his back door to shut down the park systems, the dinosaurs are now no longer being able to. They're no longer being contained by the electrified fences. So the adult Tyrannosaurus attacks the guests on tour, and there's another Tyrannosaurus in the movie. It's in the book. It's a juvenile, and it kills the. Let me see here. It kills one of the park. It kills the public relations manager. So it's gonna be a bad image.
Well, shit.
Yep. In the aftermath, Alan Grant and the children, they become lost in the park, and he has to help get them all the way back to the park's main compound where they be safe. Ian Malcolm is gravely injured by the attack, but he's found by other survivors, and they spend the remainder of the novel. I'm sorry, not they. Malcolm, he was gravely injured, and he spends the rest of the book slowly dying, but he does in the end survive, unfortunately. Yeah, I'm gonna make it clear. I don't like Ian Malcolm's character. He's described as a chaos theorist. He's a mathematician. He uses
Ah,
number. Yeah, he uses numbers to predict outcomes and things like that. And is a firm believer in chaos theory, which is. Hang on, hang on. Let me pull up. Let me pull up the definition of chaos theory. Is an interdisciplinary area of scientific study and branch of mathematics focused on underlying patterns and deterministic laws of dynamical systems that are highly sensitive to initial conditions and were once thought to have completely random states of disorder and regularities. I'm not ever going to repeat that sentence, so if you want to hear that again, just rewind this episode. I don't give a shit. Anyway, so yeah, so Ian is badly injured and Alan Grant has to make his way across the island and navigate the different dangerous dinosaurs. So, though most of the time it's just he has to just navigate around some of the herbivore dinosaurs. They don't bother him. He realizes pretty quickly that the velociraptors that were supposed to have been locked away in an enclosure, some of them had managed to escape their enclosure and under the nose of John Hammond even before the security systems went down, and that
mhm.
they had actually been breeding. So one of the things that John Hammond pointed out was that uh, the dinosaurs are all female. There's no males on the island, so there's no way for them to breed. And also,
Eh,
he thanks to like a little genetic tampering and tweaking, these all the dinosaurs are supposed to be sterile, while at the same time totally dependent on a specific, uh, like a specific a specific vitamin or a compound that has to be put in, like a certain kind of vitamin that needs to be put into their food.
yeah,
So when so if these dinosaurs don't get it, they actually will start to die, which is kind of fucked up, but it's a hell of a safety measure to make sure that the dinosaurs don't, escape and cause like an ecological disaster. But anyway, they Dr. Grant realizes that that some of the velociraptors had actually escaped from their enclosure a long time ago, and they had been secretly breeding on the island. Thing is, it went right under the noses of the park execs because uh, while there is a special, I guess it's like a tracking system that the island has that keeps track of the dinosaurs populations, but really it only keeps track of the dinosaurs that have special tags on them. So it scans the island for the tags, and if it detects them, it'll keep record of them. And if any of them die or go missing, it'll also log that as well. But with a quick tweak, the island system can actually detect other animals based on like just different scenarios, things like that, like food habits and uh, a few other things. And they realized that that not just the velociraptors, but the dinosaurs themselves were actually breeding, and there's a hell of a lot more of them than they thought before. So there's a lot more velociraptors on the island, which is not good at all. The reason why the park execs never realized this, like the handlers didn't realize this, was because the velociraptors, being the smart little buggers they are, they're actually not, it's not really smart, but it's just more of them being nocturnal. They only came out at night. They would eat some of the other excess animals, the but no one really noticed because technically the park system still registered the same population as before. And so the story goes back and forth between Dr. Grant and the kids, and John Hammond, Sarah, and the others at the park's main compound. Uh, they're trying to help Grant get back to the main compound as quickly as possible. They're using and they're while at the same time trying to override Nedry's back door, because when he shut down the system, he did a complete lockdown on every park system, so no one can really access it right now. So while they're trying to figure that out, the main compound soon comes under attack by vicious velociraptors. So it really it's making their lives way harder, and because of how smart these velociraptors are, just closing and locking the front door isn't going to be enough to keep them out forever. Um, so while they're dealing with that, Dr. Grant is uh, manages to find manages to find one of the park's boathouses and uses it to navigate down one of the rivers going through the island, which will lead them directly to the main compound. Now, here's something that's in the book that we actually don't see. We're actually not supposed to see until the third movie, and that's the scene with the pterodactyls, the pterodactyl enclosure. So the thing is, Michael Crichton only wrote 2 books for Jurassic Park, and that was book 1 and then The Lost World.
Yeah.
Jurassic Park 3, and then, of course, the new Jurassic World series. Those don't have any books written by Michael Crichton. And I know, because I made sure to check. But, so, even though the pterodactyl scene wasn't seen in the movies until Jurassic Park 3, in the book, while Alan Grant and the kids are going downriver on this boat, it does take them through the pterodactyl enclosure, and they almost get speared by the pterodactyls, which is not good. After they come out of the pterodactyl enclosure, they are chased down by both the adult and juvenile T-Rex. Hang on. Sorry. The hell's going on outside my house?
Outside your house?
Oh. Oh, no, it's just my cousin Joseph, and this big ass white truck just pulled up right next to his car, and I'm like, the fuck they doing? Being all nosy.
Mm-mm-mm.
Oh, it's probably his dealer or something.
Oh.
All right, Joe. Getting your weed express delivered to the house. Okay. Future Devin, edit this part out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Grant and the kids do manage to make it back to the main compound, but they themselves are also attacked by the velociraptors. Several other people, a lot of the park's employees do get killed by the velociraptors and the tyrannosauruses. Grant, Sattler, and Malcolm, along with the 2 kids, they do manage to escape the island thanks to the arrival of... it wasn't the military, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, it was. So, one thing that they left out in the movie was that in the movie, they make it seem like, personality-wise, John Hammond, while eccentric, was actually a very kind man. He had a very childlike dream of resurrecting dinosaurs and bringing the joy and knowledge, this kind of joy and knowledge to the world. But in the book, Hammond is more narcissistic. He's more self-centered. He doesn't really care about his grandkids. He was just in it because he wanted to be the first one to do it. When he discovered that there's preserved dinosaur DNA in fossilized tree sap, he wanted to be the first one to resequence dinosaur DNA and bring them back to life through cloning. And because of this, like, as the park is starting to crumble, the systems are shut down. The Velociraptors and the T Rexes and the pterodactyls are escaping and attacking everybody. He's over here, like he's basically like he's in denial. He's like this. He's shifting the blame. He's not taking any responsibility. And at one point, he gets separated from the main group as they're trying to escape the island, and he ends up getting eaten by the Velociraptors. So yeah,
How
Hammond does
funny.
die. Yeah, so Hammond does die. And let's see here. Oh, I'm sorry. I misread my notes. It wasn't the Velociraptors. It was the Compies. Cuz he was an old man, he like tripped, he got like uh he noticed that there was a one of the T-Rexes was near, and he got startled, and he fell, and that's when he got attacked by a bunch of Compies.
Ooh.
Uh yep. And they were able to get word out to the mainland, and the Costa Rican Air Force does rescue them from the island. But because the Costa Rican government discovered that there was technically illegal experimentation going uh, on this island, and now the island is filled with uh, potentially hazardous and unsafe life forms. The Costa Rican military ends up firebombing the entire island. So that's something that the movies don't mention, is that Isla Nublar is completely destroyed by the Costa Rican government,
Yeah.
and the whole affair ends up getting covered up. So all the deaths, the dinosaurs, the genetic experiments, it was all covered up by the Costa Rican government. The reason why they did this, it wasn't because like, oh well, we don't want corporations around the world to get wind of the fact that it's possible to clone dinosaurs now. It was more of the fact that they wanted to protect their tourism industry. Like Costa Rica at the time, and I'm not entirely sure if this is true, um, but the Costa Rica, a lot of their capital comes from tourism. And if, let's say, word gets out that dinosaurs are now roaming Costa Rica, it could potentially damage their tourism, their country's image as a tourist destination, and really impact their economy.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to cover it up. They destroyed the island, and they basically forced the survivors into like non-disclosure agreements to never really discuss the events that happened during the island. Uh, However, uh, several weeks after the events of the that happened at the park, Alan Grant is visited uh, by the paleontologist that contacted him in the first place to identify the Compy's corpse that he found. Um, the paleontologist's name is Dr. Martin Gutierrez. Gutierrez visits Grant and informs him that an unknown pack of animals has been migrating through the Costa Rican government, this eating crops and other animals, and basically he hints that the dinosaurs are still alive, and they may have escaped the island. And that's pretty much where the book ends. Like I said, I was pretty disappointed by the books. They had a lot of the same scenes as the movies, but the movies definitely did the books a lot more justice. They definitely made them more dramatic, uh, more thrilling. If I'm being honest,
Yeah.
I forgot to mention there was this. They did include the book. In the book, there was the scene where the Velociraptors chase the kids into the kitchen. That one kitchen scene, so that was there. But if I'm being all honest, the movie made it more did a better job with that scene than the book did. And so yeah, as part of this episode, we're going to go ahead and talk about the sequel because the sequel, The Lost World. Um, I'll be totally honest. I definitely liked the first book better because I like the fact that the movie was very faithful to the plot of the first book. A lot of the elements in the first book were used for the movie, but The Lost World was definitely more disappointing to me because, for one thing, Ian Malcolm is the main character of the book,
Mm-hmm.
and the thing about Ian's character is that he's very I told you so. Like his attitude is like I could have told you that. Like I already knew. Like yeah, I know. I've known this way before anyone else did. Like, and because he's a mathematician that specializes in chaos theory, he has this idea that he knows everything. Like he can predict anything that's going to happen, and acts like nothing surprises him anymore. And honestly, it's that kind of know-it-all personality that really just makes me want to just shoot him in the fucking face.
Uh-huh. Fair.
Like when I started reading The Lost World, the first few chapters really didn't have was nothing but a lot of exposition. It was just build up to the actual events that occur on the that take place with the dinosaurs. Like now, just like the first book, they're dealing with another eccentric scientist. This dude believes that there is a lost world out there, um, a basically a biosphere containing relics from the. Uh, Let me see here. Let me pull up my notes for the Lost World. So now this other dude, we're dealing with another wealthy individual similar to John Hammond, except this guy is wealthy paleontologist Richard Levine. Levine believes that there is in fact a lost world out there, filled with prehistoric animal life, and it's somewhere off the coast of Costa Rica. So we're back to Costa Rica, and Levine finds evidence of these animals in the Costa Rican jungles. However, any evidence he finds, it is immediately tracked down by the Costa Rican government and it's destroyed, which greatly frustrates him. But he soon realizes that the now defunct company of InGen somehow has connection to these prehistoric animals. So he starts buying up a lot of old InGen, so old tech, old records. Now, even though InGen destroyed a lot of their records concerning Jurassic Park, they didn't. Levine was able to surmise that InGen had several big projects off the coast of Costa Rica. Um, he is aware that Isla Nublar was firebombed by the Costa Rican government, but he didn't really understand why. But thanks to him being able to, but because Levine recovered a lot of InGen's old technology, old computers, he was able to restore several supposedly deleted files, and he learns that there was in fact a Site B. So there was Site A, which is Jurassic Park, but there was another place called Site B, and that's where this book really focuses its attention to. So its attention on. So Jurassic Park itself is gone. There's nothing left of it, but the protagonists of the book, Levine, Malcolm, and several others, they deduced that InGen had a second facility of Site B, which was on the island of Isla Sorna. So Sorna was considered the production facility where InGen grew and hatched the dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. So Nublar was the park, Sorna was the farm, and Malcolm, he ends up getting roped into this whole ordeal because Levine learns that he has a lot of experience with he has experience dealing with this and believes he can help him out. Uh, Levine, once he realizes that Site B is on Isla Sorna, he goes there by himself with a local guide. But shortly after arriving, the two are attacked by carnosaurs, and Levine is almost killed. His guide is killed, but Levine is trapped on the island and is having to uh, avoid all the dinosaurs and really pretty much wait for rescue. But like the dumbass he was, he didn't really tell anybody that he was going to the island. He just was like, "Oh, I'm just going to do it," and he did it.
Of course.
Because of course. And it's the same thing with a lot of scientists. A lot of them I mean, if you're a scientist, I'm sorry whether this is true of you or not, but a lot of scientists, they really are focused on being the one that discovers something new.
Of course, because that's what makes you the most money.
Yeah, exactly. They want to be the next Isaac Newton. They want to be the next Albert Einstein. All right, the next Stephen Hawking. They want to be the
Yeah.
next person that their name will be forever immortalized as the dude that discovered the next big discovery.
Yeah.
But and that's what Levine wanted to be, because he wanted to be able to prove that dinosaurs existed. He didn't fully understand that these modern day dinosaurs aren't really like survivors from these prehistoric eras where dinosaurs came from, but rather clones grown and bred and genetically engineered by modern technology, by capitalism, really.
Capitalism.
Uh-huh. And eventually Malcolm learns that Levine went missing on the island. He then goes to the island with a rescue team consisting of former engineer Jack Thorne and retired university professor Eddie Carr. The thing is, like the movie, in the movie, they made it seem like there was this big ass operation that was going down to like visit the island and to capture these animals so that way they could be used for study and also other purposes, like mainly for making money, right?
Yeah.
But in the book, it's just a rescue mission. Levine was planning a research operation. Like he did contract Dr. Thorne to build him a bunch of specialized and reinforced research equipment, including um, specialized trailer that will be airdropped into the island and other like vehicles and equipment that are designed specifically basically they're designed to withstand the dangers of dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Right. And although Malcolm and Thorne go to the island with a small team to find Levine, they do take the trailer with them and a few of the vehicles, but really it's just them. There's no big ass expedition. There's nothing like that. They get to the island and they do find Levine, but Levine is like, "Nah, bitch, I'm not leaving. I'm gonna stay here. I came here to research, right? To do research, to study these animals, and that's what I'm gonna fucking do." But the thing is that when they came to when they contracted uh, when they contracted people to take them to the island, the contract was that they drop them off and then they're going to come back in a couple days to pick them up, and after that, that's it. We're not coming back. So if they miss their rendezvous with the helicopters, that's it. They're left behind. And despite now the story also, like the first book, is kind of split into between the two different groups. So in the first book, a certain character is introduced, and that is Richard Dogson. Or, I'm sorry, Lewis Dogson. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So Lewis Dogson is a geneticist and celebrity. Basically, he's a bad dude. He's infamous for not only cutting corners but stealing the work of other geneticists and other scientists in general. Uh, he plays it off as like it's just business. All right, you gotta do what it take. You gotta do what you gotta do to get on top. Things like that. He's the one that hired Nedry, the software engineer, to sabotage Jurassic Park's security systems in order to steal their research and their embryos. And now, because that failed, he wants to go. He wants to go to the island, the Site B island himself, in order to capture live specimens. And while he does, he really just takes a small crew with him. And when they get to the island, they manage to steal a few eggs, but they also make the mistake of stealing an egg from a Tyrannosaurus nest. And the Tyrannosaurs basically chase him down, and he is eventually killed. Him and his team, they're all killed. Uh, and this causes problem for the main team, including Malcolm and Thorne and Levine, and the iconic, really the only scene that this book has that the movie has is the scene where the tyrannosaurs uh they destroy the trailer and push it over a cliff. But that's pretty much it. There's just a lot of like, yeah, they get attacked by the tyrannosaurs. They do get attacked by a pack of velociraptors. Um, so in the movie, Malcolm has a daughter who sneaks onto the expedition to the island, but in the books, he doesn't have a daughter. Uh, Instead, it's these two middle schoolers who were being mentored by Richard Levine, and when they learn that Levine is in trouble on the island, they sneak onto the expeditionary crew to Costa Rica, and now they're involved in this whole debacle, and they nearly die several times. And I'm just like, okay, these kids, this is pretty dumb, because I just thought this was really dumb because like I feel like these kids were thrown in to add a friendlier element to the book. They really didn't provide much to the story. One of the kids, he is a math whiz, and he's a genius with software, with computer systems and things like that. And it's thanks to him that they managed to hack into Ila Sorna's security systems, because even though there's no one else on the island besides our main characters, they do discover Ila Sorna's production facility where they grew and hatched the dinosaurs, but there's no personnel there. There is power, and that's pretty much how he was able to figure out that, like, oh, there's a computer system here, like an entire security system, and this kid hacks into it and gives them access to the island's security camera system. But really, that's all he contributes. He actually almost dies several times. Like at one point, he almost gets killed by the velociraptors, and the girl that's supposed to be Malcolm's daughter, she's not his daughter. She almost gets killed by the velociraptors too, and it was just really like it was just a mess, and there's just not much there was not much going for this book or its story. um a few like There was a lot less people, a lot less characters in this book that died
Mhm.
and gets killed by the dinosaurs.
Ooh.
There's just a lot of to me there was just a lot of Malcolm going on about chaos theory and like extinction, talks of extinction and things like that. and to me it just bored the fuck out of me.
Yeah.
Yeah, not saying that it was poorly written. I'm just saying that the story wasn't as great as the first book, and the movie did a way better job.
Hmm. Oh
Yeah,
god, this cat.
ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by our new mascot. What's her name?
Nimba.
Nimba.
Nimba. A
Yeah.
cat, a three-legged furball who likes to voice her opinions when no one asks.
Mm-hmm. I mean, hey. Spill the tea, queen.
And she has a lot of tea to spill, apparently.
And we're, of course, always joined by the original mascot, Shelly, but she's currently shirking her duties and taking a nap.
Oh, yeah.
But she's an old dog, so I'll give her a pass. Anyway, so I don't really have. I'll be honest. I don't really have much to say about the book. They do encounter several new dinosaurs, like the Carnotaurs. Turns out the Carnotaurs in the book, unlike in the movie, because we do see the Carnotaurs, but really not until the third movie. But the Carnotaurus in the book, they have a chameleon ability. So they're
Yeah.
like chameleons. They can camouflage themselves, and their skin, the pigment on their skin, can change color to match their surroundings. But it's more adapt. But the Carnotaurs, their camouflage is a lot more effective because where a chameleon, when their skin changes color, it's very
Mhm.
slow and gradual. So
Yeah.
chameleons have to move very slowly in order to effectively camouflage themselves.
Of
Whereas a
course.
Carnotaurus, they pretty much they can adapt to any surrounding very quickly. So when the Carnotaurus are first encountered, the main characters didn't even realize they were there until like because this was in the middle of the night and they were in a one of the facility's convenience stores, and they managed to they managed to get some power into the they managed to get some power onto the convenience store, and when the lights came on, it shined on the Carnotaurus, and that's when they saw him. Like, holy shit, there's two fucking dinosaurs there! But almost
Uh-huh.
immediately, they fade back into the background.
Yeah.
So they realize that the Carnotaurus, they shy away from like bright lights or change, like anything that changes causes them to change their skin patterns too fast. It makes them nervous, and they end up running away. But either way, they're only on the island for about a day or two. Several people die. Malcolm, Thorn, another wildlife. What's her name? Sarah Harding. She, Dr. Sarah Harding, is an ethologist who studies behaviors of animals. She gets roped into this by Malcolm,
Mm-hmm.
and she almost gets killed by Dogson, the other guy, the bad guy. But the entire when she finally like gets manages to meet up with the rest of the like Malcolm and the others, she ends up pretty much taking charge and like leading them out of there. And they do
Mm-hmm.
manage to escape the island via boat because when the helicopters return, they were too late and they take off without them. So they end up having to escape the island via boat. They're chased by velociraptors almost relentlessly. But during this time, at one point, one of the kids, one of the equipment that that Richard Levine had commissioned to be built was a custom made shark cage. Except this cage is meant to be used on land instead of in the ocean. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so like if they're ever attacked by like a velociraptor or any other dangerous animal, they can just lock themselves in the cage and it should protect them. But when so one of the kids, he gets attacked by the velociraptors and he locks himself in the cage. But the velociraptors end up dragging the entire cage down to their nest, and while everyone else is running around trying to save this kid, they notice that a lot of the dinosaurs are very young. There's not a lot of older dinosaurs, and they also notice that there's a lot of dinosaur carcasses around the island. There's way more. There's way more velociraptors. Like Dr. Harding, Sarah Harding, being a animal behavioralist, she studies the natural balance in an ecosystem when it comes to predator and prey. So usually, in order for the ecosystem to support one predator, there has to be like, oh god, like several hundred prey animals in order
Mm-hmm.
to viably support these predators. But she notices almost immediately that there's way too many velociraptors and there's not enough like prey animals like brontosaurs, uh, the duck-billed dilophosaurs, or or I'm sorry, not the duck-billed dilophosaurs, other animals like that. There's not enough for there to be a proper balance in the island, and they also when that little let me look up his name. What was his name? I am so terrible with fucking names. Arby. So the two stowaway kids were Arby Benton and Kelly Curtis. So Arby, being the little math genius he is, he when he hacked into the facility systems, they find records and they notice that there are several veterinarian notes concerning an outbreak of uh, a certain disease, prions. So
Mm-hmm.
as they're exploring the island and they see all these just they all notice that there's an imbalance to the dinosaurs ecosystem. Like there's too many prey animals, there's too many carnivorous animals and not enough prey animals to support them all. So they're starting to notice like something's off here. And when the survivors manage to escape the island using an emergency boat, uh, they they reveal that these dinosaurs, even if Richard Levine were to return to the island with a bigger research, with a bigger expedition team and more resources, there won't he won't have enough time to study the dinosaurs before they all die, because um, there had been an outbreak of a disease caused by a certain form of sheep extract called prions. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
this disease greatly shortens the dinosaurs' lifespans and infects their brains. So, although this disease had been contained, uh, it had spread to all the dinosaurs on the island. So it will lead to the eventual re-extinction of the dinosaurs on Sorna. This is pretty much where the book ends. Once they escape the island on by boat, that's pretty much it. They reveal that the dinosaurs are all going to die anyway because they're all infected with a disease that's going to kill them, and that's it. This
Mm-hmm.
this book, while interesting, scientific, and engaging on a scientific way, it's not very exciting. I guess my mistake when I went into reading this book, I was expecting it to be as exciting as the movie, because the movie was just phenomenal. We had so many different amazing scenes, like when the velociraptors chase the expeditionary teams through that tall field of grass, when the T-Rexes bite that dude in half, when one of the T-Rexes rampage through that town. It was just so much that I could see why, like, even though Michael Crichton wrote this book first, when it was adapted into a movie, they definitely did a lot to add to the story.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if there wasn't I didn't go into much detail about either books. Like I said, um, they weren't while the first one was good and the second one was decent. their stories weren't as exciting, and like I said, my mistake was going in expecting them to be as exciting as the movies, and I ended up disappointing myself, so that's on me. Uh, but I can definitely see where what inspired these movies in the first place. I can also see why how they act as a warning to this to the new power that is the study of genetics. But really, there's definitely more that could have been done.
Mm-hmm.
But which technically was done when they were adapted into movies. These books were definitely good enough to have warrant not just one but six movie adaptations, and four of them aren't even based off the books. Aren't even based off books. They're just like Hollywood. They took the original story and they went from there.
Yeah.
You know. Uh, but yeah. So anyway, so as far as the uh, books and movies, since only the first two are actual adaptations of the first two Jurassic Park movies are adaptation of books. Uh, in next week's episode, we're definitely going to go over Jurassic Park and the Lost World of Jurassic Park,
Mm-hmm.
and we might give some honorable mentions to Jurassic Park 3 because there are elements of Jurassic Park 3 that were taken from both The Lost World and Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but really, Jurassic Park 3, as well as the sequel series of Jurassic World, um, those are all they're all done on their own. They're they aren't adapted from any of Michael Crichton's books. I don't even think he's alive still.
I don't think so either.
No. Yeah, he passed away. Oh wow, he passed away at 66. He died on November 4th, 2008.
Yeah.
So yeah, even if he was still alive, I'm not sure if he was going to write any other books. It kind of looks because like I remember when Jurassic Park 3 came out, that was like in the early 2000s, and uh, let me see, what books did he write? I'm gonna like look up what other books he wrote because I could have swore Michael Crichton wrote other Jurassic Park books, but when I looked it up, he didn't. So yeah,
I don't think he did, but I know other people did.
yeah, other people definitely. I guess like Jurassic Park definitely became that that kind of story that just took off. So it's something like I guess you could say it's something like Warhammer or Star Wars. Even though the original story was created by George Lucas, so many other artists took inspiration and wrote their own stories that
Yeah.
connected to this. So anyway, yeah, that was Jurassic Park and the Lost World. I do again apologize that the this review wasn't as long or as descriptive as previous episodes because, like I said, the stories weren't very, um, for lack of a better word, they were pretty disappointing. The stories were pretty disappointing, especially if you've been spoiled like I have by the movies. So
Yeah.
these books were definitely one of the few books that I would say where the movies did a better job than the book, but they definitely have their value. These books do have a lot of value to them, just because they were written as a way as a warning to the dangers of genetics, and this definitely puts them in that category of stories warning about new kinds of power. Like, for example, Godzilla, my favorite movie, monster, was created as sort of a warning. Like this is meant to represent the dangers of nuclear power, and Jurassic Park was written to represent the dangers of genetics. And it's like it comes down to like humanity is trying to play God, and we suffer the consequences for it.
Yeah.
But aside from that, thank you guys for listening in. I hope you enjoyed this little short episode. And
join us next time as we next episode we'll be talking about the movies, the franchise as a whole, just kind of geeking about that. Not just the first few films, but the whole lot of them. And whatever else Jurassic Park has done since then.
Is Jurassic Park on any streaming services? Because I do want to watch at least the first two.
I think.
I'm pretty sure it's on Peacock.
If it's anywhere, it's probably... All right, so the original one is on HBO Max. Jurassic Park Lost World is on HBO Max.
Cool.
Jurassic 3. I know the Jurassic World series is on Peacock. The first 3 are on HBO Max. It looks like.
Yeah.
And then Jurassic World On's on Peacock. So, yep, they're all on. So if you want to go watch the movies and get ready for next week's episode, HBO Max and Peacock for the whole franchise.
But until then, bye.
Bye.